Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
Hello, MacPack. It's great to be back with you for another exciting episode of On the Move with Mac Worley. I, of course, am your host, Mac Worley III, and I'm really excited about today's show. I have my good friend Dan Sandini of the Daylight Disinfectant. He's going to be joining us today. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, actually. But today's featured topics are going to be specifically focusing on the left, how they're planning to obstruct in Congress. These are the featured topics. How the GOP won't release the health care bill and how the left is reacting to that. And I also want to point out some hypocrisy on both sides of that. I also want to talk about why I think free speech is the next political debate that we're going to be having. And then focus in here on the intolerant left. Why I believe that they are the most intolerant of, when comparing left and right, that is. Because when you don't have an ideology that allows you to focus on individualism, when you have a collective ideology, you become intolerant, I think, in some ways, of individualism, as far as individual choices. A libertarian, for example, if a libertarian blows you off, it's like, hey, you know what, that's not for me, but that's all up to you. If you're into that, that's your thing. Go right ahead and do that. But that's not for me. That's the way a libertarian looks at things. And by the way, I am a libertarian in philosophy. I have some conservative leanings, for those of you out there. And but a leftist, a collectivist, you have to conform. You have to fit in. You have to be a cog in the wheel. And if you're not going to fit in, then they may not necessarily be intolerant, or they may be tolerant of everything so much so that in terms of political correctness, you may be so tolerant of everything, even intolerance itself. So therefore, they may embrace things like Sharia law because, hey, what am I to do? Cultural relativism. I don't know anything about this stuff. Who am I to tell you that this culture is wrong or that culture is wrong or this custom is wrong? Everything's relative. There's no absolutes, even though that statement alone, everything is relative, is an absolute statement. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to dive into this quite a bit. So we have, as I mentioned before, we have Dan Sandini, who's going to be joining us here in a few moments, and I'm really excited to talk to him. He's a citizen journalist. He's from the DaylightDisinfectant.com, Daylight Disinfectant on YouTube as well. Check him out. He's done a lot of really cool things. I want to talk to him because if you didn't listen to last show we were kind of focusing on the left and some of the violence coming out of the left, how it's almost exclusively coming from the left, but both sides themselves are radicalizing. One of the reasons why I want to have Dan on the show is because Dan has seen a lot of things firsthand when he's gone down and tried to film and roll film to expose what the left is doing, and he's got a lot of really interesting stories that I want to have him share with you guys. I mean, this guy has a finger on the pulse of what was going on in Portland while he was there. Since then, I think he's moved, but he was doing a lot of really good things, and if you're not familiar with him, you really ought to be. But anyway, we're going to cut to our commercial break here in a second. Before I do, let me go ahead and just get the housekeeping stuff out of the way here. Don't forget to check us out on our website, OnTheMoveShow.com. You can follow us on Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow. You can like us on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. Follow us on Twitter @OnTheMoveShow. You can also tweet us during the show, and we'll interact with you guys there if your tweet was deemed worthy. And feel free to subscribe to us on YouTube.com/OnTheMoveShow. Also on our website, OnTheMoveShow.com, please click the shop link. Check out our products on there if you would like. We got hoodies, coffee mugs, phone cases, that kind of stuff. Please feel free to check it all out, and if you like it, feel free to purchase it. Your purchases will help us make this show bigger and better, so we certainly appreciate it. Anyway, we're going to cut to a commercial break. When we get back, we're going to dive right into our featured topics. You guys don't want to go anywhere.
Have you visited the On the Move with Mac Worley store? We've got amazing original design t-shirts, hoodies, cell phone cases, and coffee mugs for sale at OnTheMoveShow.com. Just click the shop link on our homepage. You won't want to miss out on the iHeart Open Carry and Bare Arms t-shirts for only $20 plus shipping. Again, just go to OnTheMoveShow.com and click the shop link on our homepage. Your purchases will help make the On the Move show bigger and better. We appreciate your support. Are you an activist who needs affordable flyers or brochures for passing out literature? Or a political candidate who's looking for business cards, logo designs, yard signs, or vehicle decals? Email me, Latasha Worley, for all your graphic design needs at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com. And don't forget to mention On the Move to get a 10% discount on all graphic design services.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore, with the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
And we're back. Thanks for sticking with us to the break. At this point, we're joined by my good friend, Dan Sandini. He's a citizen journalist, formerly out of Portland, Oregon. And I am really excited to have Dan on the show. Hey, Dan, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on your program, Mac.
You're very welcome. I really appreciate it when you grace us with your presence. So let's dive right in. I wanted to talk to you today about the radical left, about some of the things that we're seeing here. And first and foremost, I'm just curious, what is your take on where we are right now in the country?
Well, I think that as a country right now, we have come around to a set of conservative values in the majority, at least inside of the country, and that those people who have had conservative values through most of, or what is commonly referred to as conservative values, and I think you and I might differ on a few of those points, but, you know, the sort of traditional Tea Party type Americans have decided to retake the country and spoke very clearly in the October elections. And in winning that, they also had several other groups that joined in with them, which typically were not associated with the conservative movement. And, you know, I'll cite a couple of those in particular. One is conservative women who spoke very loudly in the election. And I think that conservative Hispanics, particularly Cubans in key areas like around Miami, spoke very loudly in favor of conservative values and voting for Trump over Hillary Clinton. And, a lot of black Americans as well in the inner cities in Chicago, just like tired. And, weird places like Wisconsin that he won. And, you know, in places like Arizona that he won, you know, where you know, you wouldn't particularly think that Hispanics and blacks would carry the election for a conservative. You know, he definitely won in those key areas. So you've got this sort of groundswell of, and gays as well. There's a lot of gays that have been closeted conservatives for so long that have now come around to supporting President Trump. And so you have this groundswell of this, and what you're seeing in terms of this Comey thing and special prosecutor and this sort of, you know, conspiring, you know, that there's conspiracy to have the charges about collusion with the Russians dropped and all this garbage, okay, and CNN is just clearly an attempt to throw sand into the gears, okay, to prevent Trump from executing his agenda. And I think his agenda is pretty clear. Roll back Obamacare, bring back domestic energy sources inside the United States, bring back fracking, bring back coal. These are his agendas, and he's doing what he can with what he has. Just signing these executive orders, which we can talk about whether the end justifies the means there, and that's the right way to do that. But that's the way he's gone about that, and you're seeing just the throes of the political elite and the Democrat Party refusing to let go and doing anything they can to, including to threaten the life of the president by having their comedians go up and show chopped off heads of the president, to have plays executed inside of Central Park to the public that show Trump being executed, and just the rhetoric on it. I'm a neophyte Twitter user, and I go out and see what's out there, and it's just the amount of rhetoric and violence against the president is just terrible. So I guess that's what I'm seeing in the country right now, and those two forces are aligning against each other. You have the left that's headed up on a grassroots level, on a ground level, on a ground tactical level by the Antifa, okay, and those folks are fighting hard to maintain the status quo inside of the country, and they're being funded by Soros-type groups. And you've got people on the right who are, headed up by the alt-right, which is probably, has its downsides, and it has its radical elements as well. It's sort of a neo-Nazi type faction that tends to hang around it. But for the most part, those guys are heading the other side in the tactical war, and you're seeing them fight in the streets. You're actually seeing this fighting in the streets. So there's fighting on the streets, and then at the higher levels, you've got this sort of air assault that's going on in the Trump administration by anyone and everyone, from Nancy Pelosi right on down the line to Chuck Schumer and all these guys who will do anything they can to see the president of the United States taken down, to see him impeached before Congress, and a successful impeachment procedure which would take him out of office, and put Pence in office, which would be interesting as well. But that's how I see it, Mac. That's what I think the state of the country is right now.
This episode is titled Hypocrisy and Consistency, and the reason why I wanted to title it that is because I really wanted to focus on these two elements from what I'm seeing right now. See, I'm old enough to remember when the Democrats said something along these lines. And by the way, Dan, you're not going to be able to hear this clip. I'll replay, or I'll tell you what we're playing. Give me 1 second here. Here comes Nancy Pelosi.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it away from
I can't hear it.
The controversy.
Okay. All right. So you could actually hear that then. Usually my guest can't. So, yeah, we would have to pass the health care bill before we could see it. We have to pass it before we can see it. I specifically remember how upset I was when the Democrats were playing hide the ball with this. We wanted to see what it was. First of all, this bill was passed without a single Republican vote. That's something that we didn't appreciate. They just shoved this down our throat. And second of all, I didn't appreciate the cloak and dagger of it all, how they were hiding it from everyone. So now we have a situation where the House, the Senate, it's now in Republican hands. The presidency now in Republican hands. And what's happening right now, Dan? Are we doing unto others as we wish that they would have done to us?
It's terrible. I really, the GOP has shown its true colors, and I think that folks like Paul Ryan are, they are actually, they're not, I wouldn't say they're closet liberals, but they're closet maintain the status quo. And Trump represents something to them which they fought it during the election unsuccessfully, and now they're trying to fight it now that he's in, which is any kind of change for the better that's outside of the parameters of what they understand. And what these guys have right now is a subservient population, and they. That's how I feel.
I don't mean to interrupt you. What I'm referring to here is our health care bill, the GOP health care bill, we're not showing it. We're not showing the health care bill. We're doing the same exact thing that Nancy Pelosi said. We have to pass it before you can see it. Essentially, it's the same thing. And the reason why this episode is titled Hypocrisy and Consistency is because the Republicans here are being inconsistent. They're saying, hey, you know what? You guys did it to us. We're going to do it to you. We're going to hide it. Doing something that they didn't like at that point. And the Democrats are being hypocrites in this scenario because they did it to us, and now they're saying, calling foul when the GOP is doing the same thing right back. It's unfortunate, but I think this is what happens, and this is what I've noticed. The state of the country is essentially since this election, we're not rooted in principles. We don't have consistency in our principles applied across the board. You give me a scenario, I'll give you what I think ought to be done. Now, granted, I'm a human being and I'm flawed. I may execute it, improperly. I may not do what I should do, but I mean, I know when I'm doing wrong. You know what I mean? So when we're talking about consistency, I think it's supremely important for us, as far as in the philosophy, to be rooted in consistency, to be basically just not trying to sorry, I'm floundering here.
Well, otherwise you're a hypocrite. Otherwise you're a hypocrite, right? I mean, if you tell the other guy that it's not right for him to be doing that, if Nancy Pelosi refuses to show you the details of the bill until 2 nights before or a night before, gives you less than 24 hours to read a stack of paper a foot tall, and says vote on it one way or the other, and we're going to get you guys in the in the upcoming elections, in the midterm elections, unless you guys sign this thing. And they strong arm some people into doing it, and they get it through, and then we do the same thing to them, which is you're telling me that is going on now with this bill, and I don't know what's in this bill, which is probably a testament to what you're saying is true. Okay, they're not making a big, they're not making a show about what's in there, and I would guess the reason why that is because it's not going to be a lot different than Obamacare.
It's going to be Obamacare light, and these. Some of the tactics that they've been using, they delayed it. They waited, to put it out there. And they didn't have the CBO report, the Congressional Budget Office report, knowing how, first of all, it would report how many people would lose their insurance, how more importantly, how much money it would cost. And these are the things that I think that they're trying to obfuscate here. This isn't, bottom line, they're trying to, quote-unquote, fix, I'm using air quotes here, people, those finger quotes. They're trying to fix the healthcare system that was fixed, again, air quotes, already. So it's just, this is what happens with socialized medicine. You end up running out of other people's money and running the bill up and making the service worse, making less competition, which increases price, which obviously when there's less competition, whoever's providing the service doesn't have to compete with anyone to make it better or innovate in any way. This is what happens when the government takes this stuff over. It just gets worse and they handle it poorly.
Yeah, the exchange. So you invented the exchange, right? I mean, Obamacare invented this thing called the exchange with these people who maintain the applications, they maintain all the data. When you call in, they man the phones. When they maintain the databases, and anytime the government jumps into anything, and you've put that right in the middle of all these health insurance companies. And, when it first came, I realized that putting the government in charge of this stuff was a bad idea, but why is it a bad idea? And, as we were talking earlier today, just via the chat, I had my health insurance canceled here in the last few weeks. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because the exchange has the wrong apartment number, and it's transmitting the wrong apartment number. And even though my health insurance company has my correct home address, they could not notify me that I needed to pay my bill, okay? And I thought my bill was on auto pay, okay? So I was watching, okay? And so by this time, the letter that did come through from my old address was a cancellation. And that means, tens of thousands of dollars in medical bills and no insurance until the next open enrollment period. So I'm sitting here right now for the first time in my life, okay, as a 55-year-old American that's paid taxes my whole life. I'm a I'm a self-made, financially independent American, very successful person, and I have no health insurance. Okay, something is wrong with this system. Okay, and Americans are really hurting, Mac. And you're pointing to one problem, which is that the Republicans are not being transparent with their solution to this problem. And I would say yes, it's a huge problem. But I think even more than that, even when they begin to solve the problem, they are not taking this seriously. And the reason why is they don't have to deal with it. I had some controversial posts on my timeline on Facebook on this shooting that occurred at the Republican baseball practice. Okay, and I honestly believe that these people, people were saying, oh, they were practicing before work, and they're playing this baseball game in the spirit of bipartisanship, and there's all this team building. You know what? All that crap, Mac, comes after you get the damn job done, and we have elected these people over and over again, and each I will say legion of them that we send in, the Tea Party folks, and then the folks that came in under Trump, riding Trump's coattails, okay? These people are not getting the job done. They are closeted liberals that are interested in maintaining the status quo where they enjoy this gold-plated health insurance coverage that none of us get, and they want us to just deal with this thing, the federal government right in the middle of its problem. It's too difficult to solve. And the worst of it is, I think the best of them are out there not taking it seriously. Where is Rand Paul? Americans are hurting under this system, and they're not taking the change seriously. And you're right, they're being hypocrites about it. They're just as bad as the Democrats. I well understand why the Republicans are enjoying some of their lowest ratings in terms of confidence from the American public right now, because they're just not getting the job done. They're not helping regular Americans. And, Trump, you may disagree with him, think he's a buffoon, think he's, I don't know, think he's brash, think he's a moron. He's trying to do at least what he thinks he can do, okay? He's trying to roll back things like the EPA rules, which kneecap the coal companies, for example, just as one example. He's trying to say, hey, if you don't have an approved policy, then you don't have to pay. I'm not going to enforce the rule that says you have to pay the tax penalty. Those are things that he can do, but he can't solve the problem. They have to present a bill to him on the desk, and it's time we stop blaming the president, both sides from blaming the president, and both Democrat constituents and Republican constituents are hurting under this Obamacare monstrosity. You have to abolish that exchange, Mac. That thing is a disaster. I can get into the details of it, but it's a disaster. Whatever bill comes across has to take apart the exchange. That's what I would say. It has to go. It has to be completely removed.
Do you think that Trump's going to be a lame duck one-term president?
Jeez, I don't know, Mac. There's two ways it can go. One way is that he's dangling all this stuff out there in terms of what his potential crimes are, to move those people over to the side so that they're all attacking that. Meanwhile, he's getting crap done. I can say I don't have to use crap on your show. He's getting shit done, okay? And I'll give you an example of that. Coming back out of the Paris Accords, okay, is a perfect example of that, okay? Keep them busy on this crap over here, and I'll take a little trip over to Europe, and I'll pull out of this thing. And by all measures, that thing was a disaster. Even from an environmental perspective, it was a disaster. We were kneecapping American companies, and it wasn't going to make a damn bit of difference in terms of global warming or anything else. And so there's a great example. So there's one thing he could be doing, Max. So you could say that he already is not a lame duck president, simply by rolling back the Paris Accord, okay, on a treaty that was never ratified by the United States. What is it? It has to be ratified by the Senate, right? A real treaty has to be ratified by the Senate. Yeah. And he never did this. What they did a wording difference. So what do they call it? A climate accord rather than a treaty. Yep. Okay. And so that they didn't have to do that. Well, you could say he's not a lame duck right there, okay? In terms of being able, and he did that right through the Comey thing, okay? So, I guess and I think that he may be dangling this stuff out there, or it really is amateur hour at the White House, and he's going to take it out on an impeachment, but he won't go unless he's impeached. So, and he'll continue to do what he can do until then. Do
you think that he's going to? Because right now, first of all, his ratings have been pretty low. He's had subpar ratings, I would say, as far as his approval rating, and
Well, let me stop you. Let me stop you right there, because yesterday the Rasmussen polls came out. He's 50% now. He was down at 36. He's 50% now, and that came out of the climate accord.
Rasmussen.
He went up to 50. Yeah, Rasmussen has him at 50.
We're gonna check this. Sorry for my.
Just came out. It's on my timeline, but it just came out, because I said watch out, Paul Ryan, when I put the comment up there, because I mean really that's what Paul Ryan's looking at. You know, the last thing he wants is somebody is Trump turning on him in a primary. You know, I mean that's going to be a bad thing for Paul Ryan up at Wisconsin. So he better figure it out. That's what the pressure is. That number that you're talking about right there is the pressure on the Republicans in Congress, as sad as that is, to fix the real problems of the American people.
Okay,
they will not do it.
Here's what I found. This is disputing what you're saying here.
Nearly two-thirds of...
1 second here. That was a ad, or that started playing here. Donald Trump tweet on 50% approval cherry picks polling data. This is PolitiFact, so you can believe it if you would like. President Donald Trump opened his first Father's Day as president with a bright and early boast about his poll numbers. The new Rasmussen poll, one of the most accurate in the 26th election, just out with a 50% approval rating for Trump. That's higher than O's numbers. He's talking about Obama. So this is how they're saying he cherry-picked the data. Amongst pollsters, Rasmussen has consistently published higher approval ratings for Trump than his peers that track his presidential job approval among Americans. Its June 13-14 poll of 1,500 likely voters did show 50% job approval for Trump, with a sampling margin of error of 3%. His numbers hadn't hit the 50% mark since late April, according to Rasmussen's approval index history. Rasmussen's numbers are atypical of the polls that have surveyed Trump's approval rating. The next closest results were still pretty far from 50%. An Economist YouGov poll of 1,500 registered voters from June 11 to 13th showed 42% approval. A June 19 through 15 SurveyMonkey poll showed 43%. Gallup, which polls all adults on 3-day rolling basis, most recently showed 39% approval rating. So they're picking out other polls.
Okay, so you've got the Economist. Okay, the Economist YouGov poll. Okay, they're a bunch of commies at the Economist. I can tell you that right now. You've got SurveyMonkey. Oh well, we all know how how scientific that is.
Seems like political fact.
But I guess it's I mean it's PolitiFact. Yeah. So okay.
Yeah,
but it's not as dismal as you might have painted.
It seems like PolitiFact is doing the same exact thing that they're accusing Donald Trump of doing, of cherry picking data here, because they're picking internet polls. SurveyMonkey, that is a internet poll, correct? And then
right,
they pick
right.
Economist, and then Gallup. Gallup. I think Gallup's doing some good stuff over there, so I don't have any problem. But regardless, he does have a low approval rating, and even if we are to take 50% at face value, that's still pretty low, considering this is he's barely out of his first 100 days, and obviously this has been a very polarized president. And again, as I mentioned last week, and I was talking about it this last week, is the mainstream media has really embraced this whole narrative of the resistance movement, and they are really pushing this whole narrative of the Trump-Russia collusion, even though there's no fact, there's no evidence here suggesting that there is any collusion whatsoever. But again, the fact.
Well, I will stop you right there. I'll stop you right there. I think there is a huge amount of evidence of Russia influencing American elections and politicians.
Well, that's a big difference between
influencing.
collusion.
Well, they're influencing. Let me finish. They're influencing Hillary Clinton and the Democrats by selling off the uranium rights, of the United States to foreign nations. But so it's the exact opposite of what they're saying. The Russians are, and clearly, if you read any of the books, Hillary Clinton has been accepting money through her foundation from the Russians forever and a day. And Donald Trump has a side conversation with a bunch of Russians, and all of a sudden, it's Armageddon here in the United States. And if there is something about the one thing about this whole Russia thing is if the Russians really did tamper in our elections, it's not going to be found out, because everybody's using this as a witch hunt against the president. And I will say, Mac, that the reason why I interrupt you is there is a huge amount of evidence that the Russians have tampered in our elections to favor the Democrats and Hillary Clinton. That's what I would say.
When you say tamper, what do you mean?
Well, I mean in terms of buying off our uranium rights, okay, by using Hillary Clinton when she was the Secretary of State to sign off on selling off our foreign assets to private corporations based upon political favoritism.
But what does that have to do with the
pro
election?
quo. I think that empowers Hillary Clinton, okay, or empowered her during the election to be a more powerful opponent because she had more money against Donald Trump.
Okay, I see where you're coming from on that. I mean, as far as what I'm talking about though is the collusion. There is no evidence of collusion between Donald Trump or his campaign and Russia.
Oh, I agree with you.
And this is the narrative that the mainstream media has been pushing, and I think this has created an environment which is surprising. It's surprising to me that they've embraced this narrative anyway, because there's no evidence of it. I remember the days when, for example, let's say a terror attack happens, and the guy yells, Allah Akbar or something, right as he's about to blow himself up, but the media is like, well, hold on, we may never know his motivations. We don't know why he did what he did. It seems like they wait so long until they'll finally admit that it was Islamic terrorism. But when it comes to Donald Trump, they don't want to wait at all. They don't even have any evidence of the collusion, and the fact that they're trying to use the fact that there's a special investigator as an admission of guilt. Oh, Trump's under investigation. Is he under investigation? Is he not? What's the truth? Coming up at 9:00. This is what they're doing, and I don't know. You can tell it's partisan. It's political. That's what this is about.
It's terrible.
And
I turn on CNN. Can you watch CNN? I can't even watch it anymore. I really try and watch. I can't watch Fox either.
Yeah, it's exclusively.
It's all awful.
If we're talking about news now, it's exclusively all I watch. I can't go over to MSNBC crazy because those guys are going crazy. I mean, they're really embracing the resistance movement, the Donald Trump resistance movement. CNN, it's an oppositional news agency. Fox is in the bag. I haven't even turned on Fox very often because it's just. To me, it just doesn't. It's not worth watching anymore. To be honest, if I'm being honest, Fox is just not worth watching anymore. CNN is a less crazy of the left, but they're still in the tank. They are still anti-Donald Trump, and they're willing to portray news that they know that they're portraying it out of context. Or again, I've watched it today. I've watched it over and over and over again. Them talking about how. Because is he under investigation? Well, he must be under investigation. He's got this special prosecutor, and they start talking about this as if that's him being guilty simply because there's a special investigator, like there's any evidence with that. And then they admit that there is no evidence, but then they continue to talk about Trump-Russia collusion. Look, I'm all about finding out what happened. I'm all about finding out the truth. If he did something, if there is collusion, if there's something, great. But I'm also not out for a witch hunt. I'm also not out to have a special investigator dig and 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 dig until they find something, anything at all. And then what started out about the Russians is now about some random thing somewhere else. I mean, granted, if there's some kind of law breaking going on in the administration, let's catch it. Great, but I don't. Again, I'm not out to get involved in a political witch hunt, and I think that they're jumping to conclusions too quickly and creating an atmosphere where these radicals on both the left and the right are really starting to get juiced up here, and I think in some part it has some responsibility of creating the atmosphere of people who go out and shoot. And do things like Steve Scalise, how Steve Scalise was shot at that baseball game you were just talking about. Now, granted, keep in mind, I'm also an advocate for personal responsibility. That guy, he woke up, he got his gun, he's the one that decided to go out and do the shooting. But there is now people talking about, and this is why part of this our featured topics today, I want to talk about how free speech is the next political debate, because now people are talking about how can we prevent this atmosphere? How can we stop this? Instead of what I think ought to be said is, how can we, as reporters or as journalists, stop creating this atmosphere of rhetoric, stop creating this atmosphere of hostility, and actually try to engage in civility, but not. We're not talking about censoring anybody. If you want to go, if your thing is to go off the handle and throw fireballs, if that's your political thing, if you're a news reporter, or if you're somebody on the internet, if you're a YouTube guy, whatever, if your thing is to throw fireballs, throw fireballs. But I personally won't. Personally, what I want to do is try to find ways that we can come up with solutions together and try to build bridges and try to be civil with each other and just talk out our problems and see if we can find some common ground in areas. I'm not trying to dive too deep in the radicalism or the rhetoric. What do you think about all that, Dan?
Well, I agree. I agree with you 100%. And you could take two different examples of how this is sort of played out. One is the Kathy Griffith Trump bloody head thing, okay? And the other thing is this Trump being assassinated on stage up in New York City, okay? Those two things. The Kathy Griffith thing, worked out really well, in my opinion. The ground troops from the Trump supporters worked on all of the sponsors and all the people that were going to have her show, okay? And they just bombarded them. I did some of them myself. The last holdouts of these venues that were going to continue to have her show canceled her show. And she will die. She's going to die broke in a trailer, which is great. Okay, there's just not a friend left in the world. Okay, she tried to defend it. It was just terrible. But she has her free speech. I support her right to hold up a bloody Trump head. I really don't think she committed a crime. She didn't say someone go out and do this. Okay, some people might say that is a crime. Okay, but I didn't think it was a crime. But that was terrible. And I thought the way that we approached that, where we talked to the people who were sponsoring this, who were enabling this. Okay, let them know that we're not going to buy their products. We're not to go to their venues. We're going to malign them at every chance we get. Okay, we have our free speech too. Okay, so that worked out well in that situation. But let's look at this thing with Trump on stage. And honestly, I know one of the people personally who has interrupted one of these performances, and I have to say, I disagree with the approach that's being taken by the right now for these plays. I think that we look like a bunch of deranged lunatics jumping on stage during a Shakespeare play, and it doesn't create an image of civility. It doesn't create an image of something that's better than the alternative. It says we're just as bad as them, or we're just as willing to make a scene that's as bad as them. They are showing a Shakespearean play where Julius Caesar happens to be dressed as Donald Trump. Is that tasteless and offensive? Yes, I think it is. Does it incite people to do that to our president? I don't know. I don't think so. Okay, so I find it offensive, but I think that just because I find it offensive, if I find your free speech offensive, Mac, I'm not going to walk up to you and put a piece of duct tape over your mouth, okay? Because that's an inherent right, and I think you and I both agree on that. These are natural rights that are given to us to express ourselves, okay? So these people are expressing themselves. They dislike Donald Trump, and they wouldn't feel bad if he was murdered. I guess that's their feeling, okay? They're allowed to express that feeling, okay? And they're in a private venue doing it. Someone paid, okay, to train these actors, to build these sets, to bring people in there, to have advertisers. Someone took their own personal property and put it on the line for this thing, okay? When you jump up on stage and do that, and refuse to leave, not only are you breaking the law, okay, you're committing a trespass by doing it. By refusing to leave, you're committing a trespass. When the person who paid for the venue is telling you to leave and you don't leave, that's trespass, okay? And then you're damaging someone at the same time, okay? And depending on the amount of those damages, that trespass may be bumped up to felony trespass, as I understand it from some of the occupiers, okay, in Portland. So you better be prepared for a felony, okay, at that point. And the person who rented that venue to express themselves has, from a libertarian perspective, you've damaged me. Okay, you've damaged me, and I am allowed to sue you in civil court. So not only is it not winning over anybody like we did on the Kathy Griffith thing, we are alienating the other side through it, and I think we're on the side of wrong. Okay, we're two wrongs do not make a right, especially in this circumstance. Okay, and I would say, I've told Laura I don't agree with the way. I hope you're safe and everything like that, but I disagree with the way you're approaching this right now. So I don't know how you feel about that, Mac, but that's how I feel about those two things that happened.
Well, I'd actually like to talk about this, but we got to cut to a commercial break. When we come back, I'll start talking about that. And then, Dan, I would like to have a conversation with you about why I think political free speech is the next debate that we're going to be having, and give some examples of this, and then move on to talk about the intolerant left. And I'd like to hear some of your experiences down in Portland, for example, of some of the things that they've done to shut down you as a journalist trying to expose their events. So would you mind sticking with us at the break, Dan?
It would be my pleasure, Mac.
Okay. All right. We're going to go ahead and cut to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to be with Dan Sandini of thedaylightdisinfected.com. We're going to be talking about free speech and the intolerant left. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Have you visited the On the Move with Mac Worley store? We've got amazing original design t-shirts, hoodies, cell phone cases, and coffee mugs for sale at OnTheMoveShow.com. Just click the shop link on our homepage. You won't want to miss out on the iHeart Open Carry and Bare Arms t-shirts for only $20 plus shipping. Again, just go to OnTheMoveShow.com and click the shop link on our homepage. Your purchases will help make the On the Move show bigger and better. We appreciate your support. Are you an activist who needs affordable flyers or brochures for passing out literature? Or a political candidate who's looking for business cards, logo designs, yard signs, or vehicle decals? Email me, Latasha Worley, for all your graphic design needs at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com. And don't forget to mention On the Move to get a 10% discount on all graphic design services.
I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, pledging my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. So help me God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
We're back. At this point, I'm joined with Dan Sandini of the Daylight Disinfectant, daylightdisinfectant.com. Hey, Dan, are you there?
I am.
Okay. So, first of all, as you know, the left is now planning to obstruct Congress. They're trying to stonewall and slow things down. They're using every trick in the book. First of all, as a limited government advocate, as somebody who actually wishes that Congress would work less, my reaction to this, good. Thank you, left. Thank you. Obstruct. Stop everything. Because, honestly, I really don't want Congress to do much. If it was up to me, Congress would have to have a supermajority to get everything done, because I think that the things that they do ought to have bipartisan support. What do you think about that, Dan?
Yeah, well, yes. I think that not adding more... not throwing more salt into the wounds that America is suffering through right now, which is, incredible amounts of bureaucracy that have been thrown on top of American businesses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Not adding to that, okay, I think is a great thing. And I think it allows the opportunity from the executive level to roll back a lot of the executive orders that Obama had put into place, and then nothing gets done by Congress to add to the problem. And then you have Trump, who's actually rolling back the executive orders. But here's some of the things that they could be doing, Mac, that I think that would be useful. And one is repealing shit, okay? Like getting rid of Obamacare, just repealing it entirely.
No, but see, I don't want them to do that. I want them to just repeal it, but that's not what's going to happen. Again, I believe that this is going to be a lame duck presidency. I don't think that he's going to get the vast majority of his campaign promises done. One of those things, I don't think he's going to get Obamacare repealed. and replaced. Which, by the way, that's what he wants to do. He's wanting to repeal and replace. I would love the repeal, but it's not going to happen just like that. It's going to be replaced with Obamacare Light. This is all going to be blamed on the Republicans. It's going to be held around our neck like a big boat anchor just hanging around our neck. And we're going to be the ones taking the blame. The Republicans, even though they're trying to fix what Obamacare did, they're going to be the ones. It's like the hot potato rule. You're the last one that touched it. You're the one that has the blame. So I don't want them to touch it at all. In fact, I would prefer nothing to get done, with the exception of trying to get things repealed that they can. But I don't want any new stuff, man. That's the exact opposite of what I want. But the point that I would just like to make here is that, again, this is another one of those hypocrisies and failure to be consistent that the left and both the right is doing. First of all, the right tried to obstruct Congress, and now the left is trying to obstruct Congress. And it's funny that the left was calling the right obstructionist, and now they're doing the same thing that they claimed that the right was doing to begin with. But this, for me, I love obstructionism. I love it. I rejoice when I see government shutdowns. These are the things that I live for, is to see my government grind to a screeching halt. How about you, Dan?
Well, no, honestly, I will disagree with you, and the reason why I disagree with you is I think this exchange thing, and I don't know how much you've dealt with these people, but the Obamacare exchange, Affordable Health Care Act exchange, is a complete disaster, and it really has impacted and hurt a lot of Americans. Seriously,
I agree.
At the worst level, at a fundamental level, in terms of the health of their families, okay, and the accessibility of people who do work hard, okay, who do love America, and who do go to work every day to be able to access health care has gone down drastically.
Absolutely.
And gone up has been every deadbeat and disgusting miscreant in the country, now has access and doesn't have to worry about them canceling their insurance because they don't pay anything anyway. Okay?
Yeah.
So there's no bill to not pay. There's no bill to not pay anymore for these people. So I guess that, no, Mac, I think that it's not a great idea, okay, that the Congress has ground to a halt. And I'll say this, it's like everybody's looking around to see who's going to get the blame. From a congressional perspective, it's fine. Okay, they're all still getting their money. They're getting the money from their constituents. They're enjoying popularity at home to an extent. It's not their fault. It's these guys' fault. Okay, but come the midterm elections, which are coming up in 2018, I'm telling you that a lot of these congressmen are going to be running against people, okay, who are going to place the blame squarely where it belongs. And I will take exception to the fact that you're saying that you can repeal it and then you have to replace it, or that's what Trump is saying that you have to do. Yes. Okay. Let's say you did do that. I can design something for you over this radio program right now that would be better than what they have right now. If they only restructured it so that you took the exchange out, okay, and used tax incentives to provide those subsidies. Take away the fact that they structure the subsidy as an unearned tax credit and make it a deduction, okay, and have it administered by the IRS. It would take a little bit of work to get that penciled out, but you could absolutely just change it into that and dissolve the exchange right away and just say, okay, you pay your money directly to the insurance companies. You can deduct it. If you're a low-income individual, let's say you're between $20,000 and $40,000, and you have a family of 2 to 3 kids or something like that, then you can deduct this certain amount of money, okay, from the taxes that you would be paying under these tax brackets, and we will eliminate the Obamacare exchange. And the only people that you have to deal with are the insurance companies. And they could do that. And I believe that's what Romney had designed. Now, I'll have to go back and look at it, okay? But when Romney was running for president, they did have, a Republican version, okay, of Obamacare that they were pushing. And it was also, it looked like it was a tax deduction that looked like a subsidy. That's what it was. But they had no exchange in there. And this exchange thing is its own monstrosity. You have put the Department of Health and Human Services in the United States in charge of everyone's life. You have let these people into their life. Matt, I lived in Germany for 4 years the first time and 4 years the second time, okay, and lived under socialized medicine. And I have not felt the way about my medicine that I have since I was there until this past week when I had to deal with this policy cancellation thing. Matt, to get my address changed, I had to talk to an Obamacare representative over the phone over a conference call while the representative from the insurance company was there while I discussed what my income was, okay? And I had to swear out an affidavit over the phone, okay, to get my address changed, to get my apartment number put on my address. Basically, that's what it is. I didn't change zip codes, nothing, okay? You have put the worst set of bureaucrats in charge of everyone's lives that you could possibly imagine. And, I have 2 master's degrees. If I can't work my way through the system and maintain health insurance, then what chance does, the guy here who's speaking Spanish or the guy here who's speaking Mandarin, to figure out this system and get it working correctly. So yes, Mac, I think that there's a lot that Congress could do to fix this thing, okay? But I think they have to take it seriously. And people may say, oh, you're heartless, they should be allowed to go out and play baseball and practice with each other, and spirit of bipartisanship and run this charity game. I agree. Okay, that's fine. They can do all those things. After they get their asses in the office and do the job that we paid them to do. Okay, get it done.
Look,
get it done.
I understand your point, and I get how it can be frustrating that they're not getting things done. However, I will just say this: there ain't no fixing this, Dan. You're not going to fix Obamacare. You're not going to fix a universal health care where some people are paying the bill for someone else. You can't fix that because the idea, the foundation of that idea is redistribution of wealth. And this program, like all other programs that rely on redistribution of wealth, are from the day of its inception are on a one-way track to insolvency eventually. And that is a problem because these programs grow, they're mismanaged, they do not provide health care equal to what you would get in a free market. And that's the problem here, Dan. You're not fixing this. There's no way, no chance, no how that this is going to get fixed.
Well,
the only way
certainly not with that attitude. Certainly not with that attitude.
Well, I'm gonna
I mean, what's the answer? I mean, I think you're wrong. I think look back before Obamacare. You definitely had a redistribution of wealth on a different level.
I'm going to tell you right now, Dan. Healthcare, lost cause. It's over. This whole thing, it's over. Congratulations. We're stepping towards single payer. It doesn't matter what happens right now. We will have single payer. This is without a doubt a fact. Watch and wait, and when single payer comes rolling down the road, this is the future. Because right now, these programs aren't going to work. There ain't no fixing it, and all that's going to happen is they're going to try to make some adjustment, and then whoever is the last one to touch it is going to be the one to get blamed, and no one is going to do the hard thing, the right thing, which is to repeal it fully and let the free market take root. No one is going to do that because they don't want to have their name next to 24 million people are going to be out of insurance because of your decision or more. They don't want to have their name associated with how many people lost health insurance. It's just not going to happen. That's not how Congress works. So I'd rather Congress not show up personally and just let this thing die out like it ought to. And then eventually that repeals itself. But eventually what's going to happen when it gets to a point of crisis, we're going to be told that, we have to pass this thing in the cover of darkness, without anybody seeing it. It's 1,000 pages and we've got 10 minutes to vote on it. This is what's going to be told to us, and that's going to be single payer. Single payer, the government's going to pay for everything. That's what's going to end up happening.
Well, I hope you're wrong, and because I've lived under that before, and it's just not. It's not a pleasant experience at all. It's like what we have now on steroids, and people are going to die. I mean, it will result in people that should not die, who have worked hard and deserve to have proper medical care, and it's like everything the same and everything mediocre, Mac. That's basically what you're going to end up getting, and it's just. It's kind of sad to see that happen in America, and I just haven't, the Henry Longfellow's poem, I think it's Henry Longfellow's poem, which goes something like, I think it's Shakespeare. do not go gently into that good night or whatever. I'm not going to stop flapping my mouth about fixing it, because I honestly believe that before this even happened, okay, before we even had the Affordable Health Care Act, we had a system which was at least tenable. Okay, it was at least tenable. This is not tenable. Okay, this is not sustainable in any fashion, any way, shape, or form. Okay, even if I solve my personal problem in the next week here, okay, it's eventually going to implode. You're 100% correct, and I think that there are ways of making it solvent. And it really, the ways to do that are through structuring it as deductions. And before it was structured as deductions for businesses, okay? And that worked very well for a lot of successful businesses. It allowed them to attract great employees and people with huge brains, okay, because they saw the great health plans that they could get for working for these companies. So that worked very well. So I think that it's possible to have something that's not great, okay, but it's better than what we have right now, and it's not in danger of financially collapsing, okay? But you don't sit back on your hands and wait for the thing to implode into. You'll never sign me up for that. Sitting back on my laurels and waiting for it to implode into a single payer system. Well, that's not going to happen. As far as I'm
love to fight for a repeal. I'll fight for a repeal, but it's not going to happen. And there's no point in us sitting here flapping our jaws about that, because we missed that opportunity in November. Our opportunity to do that was lost when we decided to elect somebody who wanted to repeal and replace. That's his agenda. That's what he wanted to do. Apparently, that's what the American people wanted to do. So that fight's over. We're either going to repeal and replace, and it's going to be more of the same, and eventually that will collapse and we'll be at single payer, or we're not going to get anything done, and and what we have now is going to collapse, and that will bring single payer. The argument over this whole situation, it's over. This is where I am with this anyway. It's over. I do not believe that we're going to fix healthcare. It's over. The free market in healthcare, over, done. We had our.
All right. You're a soldier. I mean, I know you're a former airman, right? And
yeah.
I mean, let's say you were over in the green zone or something, and a mortar landed next to you, and took out a piece of your leg, and you started bleeding. Are you gonna leave yourself to hemorrhage in the dirt, knowing that no one's gonna get you? Okay, that you're out there, or are you gonna do the best you can, make a tourniquet, and stuff something inside of there to staunch the bleeding? Okay, until something else comes along that you never envisioned. Okay, that can save you.
All right.
What if they get? Okay. Matt, what if they kept it alive long enough to cure cancer and AIDS? Here's the thing. Think about the savings.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, I get your analogy. All right, but more. What I think we ought to do is repeal it, or let it collapse, and try to stonewall any kind of single payer system that comes, and let the free market take root. My example that I would give, instead of saying, I got blown up by a mortar, let's say I got a bullet wound, and I got to get the bullet out. It's painful. It's going to hurt like crap to get that bullet out of there, but I got to get it out, because otherwise it's going to kill me. This is the same concept. You have to let the free market take root. It's going to be painful, but eventually things will get better. Some people are going to lose their health care. The healthcare system is going to end up in chaos. Eventually what will spring out of that is competition. If we deregulate this industry, if we actually let people engage in this market, get out between, have the government get out of the way between somebody and their doctor and their insurance company. Allow these people to engage.
Yeah, but you're already seeing that, Mac. You're already seeing that even with the stuff that's in place right now. You've got these Medishare plans. I know someone personally on one of these Medishare plans that's doing these religious-based Medishare plans that have gone right around, this whole exchange thing. So I think once you eliminate that exchange, you'll allow the insurance companies to do the same thing. Okay, they're not going to need that. They're not going to have policies that fit inside this particular box. They're not going to have these bureaucrats to deal with every little life change that you have to deal with. All those people are going to get fired. Okay, so the costs are going to go dramatically down. The minute you eliminate,
let's just say, for example, let's just take what you're saying at face value. Even if you could reduce all the costs, and you can actually make this thing not operate continually in the red, which they've been having a lot of difficulty with doing. But even if you can do that, even if you reduce, the kind of policies that people have to have at a minimum, and even if you do this or that, down the line, this program still exists. The fact that the government still has its hand in it, it will grow. Every single program that the government has grows. It's going to grow, even if we chop it back right now. The only solution in this situation, I don't think is to fix it. I think is to completely get rid of it, cut it out. Root and branch, get rid of Obamacare, get rid of universal health care, allow people to make individual choices, and stop being coercive with the government. Stop telling people they have to buy a product or they're going to get taxed or penalized. Allow people to choose. If the left is really pro-choice, how about pro-choice in as far as their health care? Because in some places, Obamacare exchanges, there's only like one provider to get health insurance from. That's not a choice at all. And if it was left to the free market, there would be competition. But let's change the subject here, because I promised we would talk about why free speech is the next political debate, and I wanted to talk about that Kathy Griffin thing and all that stuff. We kind of got sidetracked here, but I'm happy we did, because I had a really good time talking with you about that. But you said, just to give the cliff notes here to listeners out there, you said that you were in support essentially of free speech of the people who were saying things like the Shakespeare play that portrayed Donald Trump as Caesar, and you were also supportive of her right to speak, Kathy Griffin, of holding up Donald Trump's head. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page with that, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I don't extremely reluctantly say it, but yeah, I think that if you're going to adhere to any principle that freedom of expression is a fundamental right of human beings, and I may not agree with what you say, but I respect your right to be able to say it. And that's there. I've said it. Now I've said it. But yes, Mac.
I think I heard you gag a little bit when you said that.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not only that, they were just using their menstrual bloods to paint today on, I don't know if you saw that today on it just, there's all kinds of free speech stuff that's going on. It's just totally disgusting and repulsive. But disgusting and repulsive, people have to get it out. The founding fathers knew that people had to get it out. And so, getting it out in those ways is better than violence. In any case, but go ahead. Yeah.
So I happen to agree with you. I think you probably already would have been able to guess that. I'm an advocate of free speech, even the speech that we find abhorrent. I personally think that it's disgusting what these people are doing. I wouldn't do that. And furthermore, I think that if the tables were turned, I just would like to paint this picture. If the tables were turned and this was Obama, how do you think that situation would go down? How do you think that would be portrayed?
Yeah, we would be appalled at the fact that these leftists were jumping on stage and disturbing Shakespearean drama. I mean, that's just like it's like a cancer joke or an AIDS joke. I mean, it's just things that just don't resonate with anybody. No one laughs. No one thinks it's appealing. When someone jumps up on stage and disturbs a classic performance of any kind, a symphony or anything like that. It's just a nasty, like fingernails on a chalkboard. You're not. It fails in so many ways. It fails on the free speech issue, like you're saying, Mac.
Do you remember?
It also.
Do you remember the rodeo clown?
Yeah. Right, exactly.
What happened with that? Just fill in the audience here.
Yeah, the dude. Okay, so the dude was a rodeo clown. He wore an Obama mask, and they got him fired. They basically got the guy fired. Okay, and they didn't stop until it was done. And I don't think he was charged.
This guy, from what I remember, he did this all the time. Every president, he's worn masks of presidents before. It wasn't just Obama. He's worn several president masks before, apparently, and the left freaked out. How dare you? Just because. And again, I think this in part they were very protective over him because of him being the first black president. That basically anything you said, if you said anything about him negatively, you called him a socialist, even though he was one. You call him a socialist, they say you're racist, even though socialism and racism, those are two different things, completely different things. We're not talking about race. You could be any color, ethnicity, nationality, anything, and be a socialist. But they made it about race because they were extremely protective of Obama. And this is not going both ways here. You can see that they embrace the Kathy Griffin side of it, although, CNN, I will say, they did fire, but they were under enormous public pressure to do something about that. So they did fire her from her one night a year gig of geez, you've got to be so stupid to ruin a job that you only have to work one night a year and you can be drunk while you're doing it. You've got to be so dumb to screw that up.
For this. Yeah.
Oh my God.
For this, yeah, just terrible, just really dumb. And Cooper threw her under the bus and then pulled her back out again. I don't know if you saw it, like a week later.
What happened?
Oh, well, I guess it wasn't that bad. It was I guess I didn't agree with what she did, but it wasn't that bad sort of statement that came out a week later from Anderson Cooper. So, at first he was, was appalled and terrible, and she's got to go, and now he's walked that back some. So, he did what he had to do at the time. I guess they're personal friends, but afterwards he walked it back a little bit. So, but she's still under the bus. I mean, nobody's going to touch her with a 10-foot pole. She's the third rail right now. She needs to go away and go away for a very long time. And she made a huge mistake. The American people will give you a chance to apologize. Let's see, in a way that is truthful. Okay, that is without qualification. That I just really screwed up. I should have never done that. But in her press conference 2 days later, she doubled down and said that she was going to go after his son. They're just not going to forgive you for that. No one's going to forgive you for that. So, children is one of those things that all Americans bond over. I don't have any kids, okay, but I love them and everything as well. But if you got kids, everybody bonds together. They all play soccer together and all this crap. So, so when she insults, Barron, and says she's going after Barron, you're going after every kid's, you're saying, okay, every kid in America is fair game, and no one's going to support you on that. So she just is really, she's a moron. You're right, Matt. She's a total moron. But the thing in Central Park is a totally different situation, and we're losing that one, Mac. And I don't know how to say it, but maybe you can help me say it, but the cinematography effect of that, what it presents on a screen, okay, is not something that's appealing. Like, I could say, okay, so let's take something else, for example. Let's take Antifa, and they hijack a crane and bring down a banner behind the White House that says Trump sucks, okay, or something like that, okay? They've done those sorts of things before. It creates a spectacle which is at least appealing and interesting to the eye, okay? I can say that that's an interesting thing to look at, okay? But a hysterical woman in the middle of the stage calling people Nazis, I don't even get the Nazi thing. I haven't had a chance to talk to her, but why are they Nazis for showing Caesar as Trump? The Nazis didn't advocate killing the president. I mean, so it doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? It's nonsensical. It makes you as bad as the other guy. It's not appealing to the eye. You're changing no hearts and minds except people on your own side who are saying,
it's grandstand.
I don't really. Yeah, I think it's more you're the focus. You personally are the focus of what's going on here, rather than your issue that you're trying. If I were Trump, I would say I wouldn't throw my arms around her. I just really don't think. I think you're making yourself as bad as they are. Let those. You're never going to stop every idiot in the world, right?
I seem to remember during the election. I seem to remember the left going crazy, doing similar things about interrupting Donald Trump's speeches and things like that. And look, I said then, first of all, I'm an advocate for free speech. You have every right to say your speech, and no one has a right to shut you down. But in a private event, on private property, this is a different thing. This is a different thing entirely. You don't have a right to interrupt a speech. You don't have a right to interrupt a play. You don't have that right. These are paying customers, came there to see this thing. It's private, and just it's simply because you bought a ticket doesn't give you a right to get on stage.
No.
So, personally, I don't support it. I think it's hilarious, but it also does show the hypocrisy and the lack of consistency. Again, it just seems like we keep switching sides because this is this was a period, an election that was not founded on principles. It didn't have any roots in principles, I don't think. Again, it's about populism, and it's about teams. This is my team versus your team, and I'm going to do to you what you did to me, even though I didn't like what you did to me. I'm going to use the same tactic against you, even though I don't approve of it. But because I'm doing it, or because it's my side doing it, I'll overlook it. Look, personally, I think people just need to embrace civility. I've been saying this since before the election. I'm going to continue saying it. We need to try to build bridges instead of trying to burn them down at every turn.
Well, look at these, and I don't think I've even watched the whole show, but I mean, there's a couple. You said a lot in there, Mac, but look at Tucker Carlson. I mean, he's a great way of combating the left. He just does it with logic, okay? And he twists their own logic against them. He holds them accountable to their own rules. And I'm a Breitbart guy, and you think you know that, Mac. That I go way back to Breitbart, and I've read his book, and I've spoken to him, and he was my friend, okay? And he was an Alinskyite, okay? And he published Alinsky's Rules for Radicals summary in his book, if people want to read it, okay? And, some of the things that are in there, it didn't say, go on stage and make an idiot out of yourself, okay? It did not say that. And when the left does that, they don't win in Alinsky's Rules of Radicals either. But where the left wins is where they do follow those rules. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Hold the left accountable to their own set of rules. So what do? You stage something where you cut off Nancy Pelosi's head. In a mock trial or the Salem witch trial where you burn her at the stake or something like that. Okay, even that makes a spectacle. It's better than what you're getting here. Okay, or
just to be clear,
you show the hypocrisy of it.
You fake cut off the head, right? You're not actually
like a dummy. Of course not. Of course, like a dummy or something like that. Or an effigy, okay, or something like that. But you do the equivalent of what they're doing to point out the hypocrisy of what they're doing, and you use ridicule, okay. In certain ways, you use ridicule. Yet people, I don't know. I was trying to design stuff in my head back. Like, what if you put people in Trump masks outside that were handing out flowers? Wearing hippie clothes and handing out flowers and stuff like that, and saying how much, with love one another, signs that say love one another and stuff like that as people came out. But you don't interrupt someone else's free speech because you disagree with it. I think that you've lost immediately on doing that. And when you don't make people laugh about it, and you said you found it funny, honestly, I'm just being honest with you, Mac, I didn't find it funny at all. I found it very distasteful, and it gave me a creepy feeling when I watched it. Gave me a creepy feeling. And creepy isn't a good place to be, I don't think, for a far-right person watching other far-right people try to advocate their views, and you feel creepy about it. I don't think that's winning in any. I don't think Breitbart would approve of what he's seeing there.
So when I say I'm laughing at it, just so you know, I'm not. I'm laughing at them for an incredibly poorly thought out idea. It seems like you know what I mean. It's more laughing at them instead of with them. But personally, I just think that there are better ways to get your point across. These are tactics, again, that we didn't approve of before when the left was doing it, but now it's our side. I still don't approve of it. Again, I just don't think this is an effective means of communicating your ideas or your objections. Personally, if it were me, I wouldn't have bought a ticket to this thing in the first place, and I wouldn't have given them my money. I typically like to vote with my feet or vote with my money, and in situations like that, I think that's the best reaction. And again, you can boycott things if you like. I'm not totally into organizing big boycotts because that's personally I just don't care enough usually to
go after the sponsors on social media. Go after whoever is sponsoring this thing, right?
And that's what the left is doing. That's what they did to Bill O'Reilly. That's what they're doing to Glenn Beck.
And it works.
That's what they're doing to Sean Hannity.
That's
I mean, the left is doing that. And look, I don't have any problem with it either. Go ahead and try. All that it's going to do is force people to come up with different ways to monetize their platforms, or it's going to have them realize, okay, well, maybe I need to change my method of delivering this message, and that I think is important. But regarding free speech, one of the things that I wanted to talk about here was how I think the left. The left is somewhat known as being the party of tolerance, but I think that is actually not the case. I think the left is more intolerant than the right. For example, Dan, if you were at, let's say, a Trump rally, and you stood up and you got up on the microphone and you said, "I'm gay and I'm a liberal, and I'm here right now at this rally," do you think that you'd have to fear of any violence being inflicted upon you?
No.
Okay. So let's say
you get a lot of booze. Maybe you get a lot of booze.
So
right? Not for the gay part. I think you get more booze for the liberal part.
Yeah.
You're in a conservative rally, and they're just gonna. A lot of conservatives, they don't care whether you. They don't care who you sleep with. As long as that's your own personal business. But it's your values about the society that are in any case. But go ahead.
So let's flip that. Let's say now you go to a Hillary Clinton rally, or let's say a Bernie Sanders rally. How about that? Let's say you go there and you say, I'm a conservative and I voted for Trump. Do you have to worry about getting any violence inflicted upon you?
Yeah. Let me tell you something, folks. 2 terms, 2 scoops, 2 genders. Deal with it. Or something like that, They would start throwing things at you, really. They would throw chairs at you. So, yeah.
All right, so let's close out the show here. I want to actually give you a couple of moments to give the audience an idea of some of the things that you've experienced as a citizen journalist, things that you've personally witnessed about how the left has attacked you simply because they know that you're a conservative journalist who's out there exposing what they're saying and doing.
Well, the worst thing that I've ever had done to me is I've had my camera punched into my face in what I consider to be felonious assault with a weapon and put in the hospital. And, and so that's my own personal experience of something bad. But, my very good friend, Mike Strickland, who, they've jumped him and, broken his arm in 3 places. Christian Harstock, they beat him over the head down in Berkeley. Just trying to think of some of the other things. Stephen Crowder, punched in the face multiple times by a union thug up in Wisconsin. Just over and over again that they've, things thrown at my friend James O'Keefe, had the book thrown at him, and so the left is extremely violent. That's what I will say, but it doesn't give us an excuse to act in the other way. But you do see a lot of this tolerance, and also because of our judicial system being very liberal judicial system, it tolerates this from the left, okay, and it tolerates none of it coming from the right. But I have seen, in defense of that, I have seen a couple of videos now. Leo Stratton, who's a friend of mine, who was on your show the other day, has a couple of videos up. I recommend people go see his channel. It's youtube.com /Leo Stratton, all one word. He's got a couple of videos up there about the Antifa finally coming after some of these motorcycle guys. And, when you and I used to be in downtown Portland, Mac, we didn't have motorcycle gangs with us. Leo's got motorcycle gangs with him now. And, these Antifa guys get in their way. And, and pow, they defend themselves, and they don't get pushed around very easily. And honestly, I think it's time they got a little of that back in self-defense. Don't start these fights, okay? But, if somebody comes in and tries to give you a push to get off the sidewalk, hell with that. Okay, I'm going to give it right back to you. So I have been assaulted. I've been pushed, shoved. My camera stolen, Mac, off of me at Portland State University, just taken from me. The woman runs out of the room, brings it to the police station. The police tell her to take it back. Just things like that. That's what the left will do. And I'm hard-pressed to think of things on the right, but that are of equal problematic things. But when you begin to jump up on stage in the middle of performances, you start to move in that general direction, I'll say, and I don't approve of it.
I definitely don't either. And again, I just hope that we can move towards some kind of semblance of civility. I know that the radicals on both sides are really ginning up right now, and it seems like it's a snowball effect where one side does something, the other side reacts bigger. The other side reacts bigger, and it just keeps bouncing back and forth like that, and eventually it snowballs. And I think we're getting to that point, and I think the media and the media circus surrounding all of this has really spooled all these things up, and it's energizing these different radical segments of both sides. And I will say, and it's important to address, the right has their radicals as well, and I don't want to be affiliated myself with the alt-right. I want nothing to do with the alt-right because I think that it embraces a neo-Nazism, a white nationalist, white supremacist aspect of it, and I don't want anything to do with that. That's not what I'm about, and I don't want to associate with people like that. So I really think that we all just need to pump the brakes and try to have a conversation without yelling at each other. And, at the end of the day, if we can't even agree on things, that's fine. it's okay to agree to disagree. The whole point of talking with each other about these things, and Dan, you and I, we disagree on a lot of things, but we also find common ground. And even at the end of the day, if we can't come together on something, we say, you know what, at least I understand your point of view. I understand where you're coming from, and it's okay that we disagree. We just have a different point of view, and I guess we'll see who's right in the end, or maybe we won't. This is.
We'll settle in the court of public debate.
Exactly.
Those ideas are going to float around in the ether. They're going into the ears of your listeners who are going to talk about it to their friends, presumably, or talk about it on the air on some other program. And, out of that comes truth. Out of free speech comes truth. But then you begin to clamp down on that, and I think that was, one of the main things of your program today. Is the minute you begin to clamp down on free speech, all bets are off, man.
Exactly.
You may like it for a while, but you're not going to like it in the end when they come after you. Okay?
Exactly.
Come after the, and so yeah, free speech, all important. And I think that the right needs to get off that. To the extent that you're saying you can't say that, okay, if you can't, go after them through the law, okay? Say that there was a threat and have the police enforce it. But, it doesn't give you the right to damage someone else and to break the law yourself. That's two wrongs don't make a right.
Absolutely. So, hey, Dan, you got anything in the works that you're trying to promote right now? Anything that you want to share out or plug?
Not really, but I do like to promote the work of my friends. I have some things that are cooking that I can't really talk about right now, but I do like to promote the work of my friends, and I would encourage people to go out and see Leo Stratton's channel, which is youtube.com/Leo Stratton. Leo is the guy on the ground in Portland. Laughing at Liberals is also back, and he's posting videos out there, youtube.com/Laughing at Liberals. Also posting stuff that's going on out there in Portland. And all of my videos are still up there. I haven't really done anything personally for a while, but I am keeping that alive, and I probably will take on some small personal projects for daylightdisinfectant.com, where all the videos are that I've had all through Occupy. You can see me in the movie Occupy Unmasked, and also drop me an email at daylightdisinfectant@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Or tweet me at DaylightDis is my Twitter handle. I'd love to hear from you guys. I'm on Facebook.com/Daylight Disinfectant as well. People want to see my videos or chat it up with me. I'd love to hear from you guys.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Dan. I really appreciated having you on the show, man. And I hope you'll come back again soon and grace us with your presence.
I will. I just love talking to you, Mac, so we can do it on the air.
Awesome. Thanks, man. All right. Well, we'll talk to you again soon. And MacPack, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show. We're a little bit over today. It's 23 minutes over, so you got a little bit of more bang for your buck. Please check out Dan at daylightdisinfectant.com. Check him out on his YouTube, youtube.com/daylightdisinfectant. He's on Twitter at daylightdis. Please follow him, reach out to him, let him know you've listened to him, react in some way, positively or negatively. I'm sure he would appreciate a good trolling or two. Anyway, so that's our show for today. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. MacPack, you're the tip of the spear. Please don't forget to check us out every Monday and Friday, and sometimes on Wednesdays we're going to be doing this. And, we talk about all things politics. We talk about government, philosophy, things like that. So share the show, like the show on whatever platform you're listening to. Check out our website, OnTheMoveShow.com. Click the shop link. Purchase something if you want to. Follow us on Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow. Like us on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. Follow us on Twitter at OnTheMoveShow. And subscribe to us on YouTube.com/ I couldn't do it in one breath. /OnTheMoveShow. I tried to do it in one breath. Anyway, I really do appreciate it, y'all. And as always, know your rights, assert your rights, and get on the move.